The security alert goes off at 3 a.m., and Riven's hand is around my wrist before I am fully conscious. She pulls me out of bed and into the hallway in one continuous motion, my back against the wall, her body the only thing between me and the front door, and her palm lands flat against my sternum, pressing, holding, feeling. "Stay here," she says. "Don't move." Her voice is the same voice she uses to give me the weather forecast and tell me my coffee is ready. Even. Controlled. The alarm stops. She looks down at where her hand is against my chest, then at my face. Her thumb shifts, just slightly, against the hollow of my throat. Something in my sternum cracks open around the pressure of her hand. I should step back. I don't. If you want to hear uncensored Too Hot for YouTube stories, check out my Patreon in the description. Tell us where you're watching from and subscribe. Rewind. 18 days earlier. I am standing in Gallery B at 6:47 in the evening, which is 11 minutes after closing, which means I am the only person in the room except for the 2 men by the Kiefer installation and the 3rd man who comes through the service door. I am there because I forgot my phone on the reading rail beside the Kiefer, which I do approximately once a week, and my assistant has stopped being surprised by it. I am not supposed to be there. The 3 men are not supposed to be there. What happens next takes 40 seconds. I watch all of it from behind the Kiefer, which is 9 feet tall and made of lead and straw and does not care at all what I witness in its shadow. The federal agents find me in my office 20 minutes later. One of them has a kind face and a bad tie. The other does not bother with a face. The one with the bad tie tells me what I already know, which is that I saw something I was not meant to see, and what I do not yet know, which is that this makes me a liability with a specific and recent deadline. He says words like safe house and protective custody and trial date. He says I have 15 minutes to collect what I need. He says a car is waiting. I am a museum curator. My specialization is contemporary installation art, which means I have strong opinions about light quality and negative space and the way objects accumulate meaning through repetition. I have opinions about sightlines and the geometry of a room and what it means when a work refuses to be looked at directly. I am told these skills will not be useful in the next several weeks. I collect 2 changes of clothes, my laptop, a phone charger, the museum catalog from the opening I curated 2 months ago, the last show I finished before any of this, and the blush lace bralette that happens to be at the top of my underwear drawer. I tell myself it was at the top of the drawer. I take 11 of my 15 minutes. I do not take my good winter coat because I cannot find it in time, and I will regret this. Riven is already in the car. She does not introduce herself. She's in the driver's seat, and the engine is running, and the federal agent with the bad tie opens the rear door for me, and she does not turn around. The car smells like cold air and something faintly resinous. Cedar, I will decide later, and something beneath it that is harder to name. She pulls away from the curb before I have my seatbelt fastened. I watch the back of her head. Jet black hair in a low, tight ponytail, the pale line of her neck above the collar of a black long sleeve, both hands on the wheel at positions that suggest training rather than habit. She does not use the rearview mirror to look at me. She uses it to monitor the vehicles behind us. 3 hours north, coastal road. The city disappears in increments until there is only dark and cliff edge and the sound of the ocean somewhere below. She pulls off the main road onto an unmarked track and drives another 8 minutes through low coastal scrub, and then we are at the house. It is a single-story structure pressed into the cliff. Gray-sided, functional, entirely invisible from the road. She parks and kills the lights and sits for exactly 4 seconds before she opens her door. I count because I have nothing else to do. She comes around to my side, opens the door, takes the bag from my hands without asking, and walks to the front door. She has a key. She disarms the system with a code she types from memory. She checks the rooms. I watch her move through them, efficient and silent, 3 seconds in each doorway, one hand always near her hip. Then she sets my bag in the second bedroom, which is the smaller one, and turns to face me. "You'll stay here until trial," she says. "I'll keep you alive. That's the arrangement." She's taller than me, noticeably. The ceiling of the safe house is not high, and it does not diminish her. She has the kind of stillness that is not stillness at all, but rather a very precise conservation of movement. Nothing is wasted, nothing is for display. Everything in her body is available for use. Her face is all angles. High cheekbones, defined jaw, dark eyes that are currently moving through the room while appearing to look at me. She does not soften any of this with a social expression. She shows me the security system panel beside the front door, the panic button behind the kitchen cabinet. The 2 exits, front door, triple locked and monitored, and the rear sliding door to the cliff edge, which is alarmed and will, she tells me, make a noise that cannot be mistaken for anything else. She shows me the monitor in the living area, mounted on the wall, cycling through feeds from 4 exterior cameras. She tells me which camera covers which approach angle, and what each one can and cannot see. Her voice is even throughout all of this. Professional. Bored, almost. She could be explaining how to operate a new appliance. When she turns to leave the room I am standing in, I watch her check the window sightlines. Then the door frame. Then, and this is the thing I file away and will not look at directly for several days, the distance between my bed and the hallway. Calculating something I am not meant to see her calculate. She's committed in a way that has nothing to do with payment. I do not know how I know this. I know it. If anything happens, you stay in this room, she says from the doorway, not looking back. You do not come to me. I come to you. I say, okay. She leaves. I sit on the edge of the bed with my museum catalog in my lap and listen to the house settle around the sound of the ocean, and do not sleep for a very long time. I hear her footsteps, not because she is loud, but because the house is small and I am listening. They occur at intervals I eventually recognize as a patrol pattern. Every 40 minutes, give or take 30 seconds. Perimeter, living area, hallway, back. The pattern does not break once through the entire night. She has done this before. She will do it again. I am the variable. She is the constant. I fall asleep sometime around 4:30 with the catalog open across my chest and wake up with a crease from its spine pressed into my cheek. She is already making coffee. The safe house has 4 rooms and a hallway that connects everything to everything else. The hallway is narrow enough that 2 people cannot pass each other without one of them turning sideways. I learn this on day 2 when I come out of the bathroom in the morning and Riven is heading to the living area and we stop approximately 14 inches apart and she looks at me for a moment that lasts longer than it should and then presses herself against the wall to give me passage. I go past her close enough to feel the temperature differential. She runs cooler than expected, cool like stone in morning air, and the cedar and something scent of her is stronger in the narrow space. And I count my steps to the kitchen and pour myself a glass of water and stand at the peninsula for a moment calibrating. I am a professional. I work with people I find compelling all the time. Artists, collectors, directors of institutions that have very complicated feelings about their own prestige. I am practiced at the specific skill of noticing someone without making it a problem. I practiced this skill extensively over the next several days. On day 3, I noticed the way she drinks her coffee standing up, facing the monitor, mug held in her left hand so her right is free. The way she reads my pacing, I circle the living area when I am anxious, which is frequently, and she tracks me through her peripheral vision without appearing to. She does not comment on the pacing. She does not comment on much. When she speaks, it is in the vocabulary of the assignment. Threat window, perimeter check, sightline, protocol. Her sentences are short. She does not fill silence. I fill silence. Not out of nervousness, or not only, but because I am a person who has spent her professional life making meaning out of objects that cannot speak. And the long, quiet days in the safe house press on me in a way I did not anticipate. I talk about the installations I was preparing before the evacuation. The kefir, the dimensions of the gallery, the way lead behaves differently in coastal humidity. She does not respond, generally, but she does not tell me to stop. On day 4, I learn something specific about her hands. I reach for the coffee pot at the same moment she reaches for her mug and the backs of our fingers collide at the handle. Neither of us moves immediately. Her fingers are warm, unexpectedly, specifically warm, the warmth of retained heat, like stone that has been in afternoon sun, and I can feel the small motion of her pulse against my knuckles. She's looking down at where we are touching, not at my face. There is a quality to her stillness in that moment that is not the professional stillness she wears like equipment. It is something different, something that costs more. She says, "You first," but she does not let go. I pull back. She pours. She does not mention it. She carries her mug to the monitor and resumes her position, and I stand at the peninsula with my coffee and try to identify what has changed in the room. Nothing has changed. I am being precise about what happened, and it was a collision at a coffee pot, and no one is required to make anything of it. I make nothing of it. I think about it, however, for the remainder of the morning. The kitchen counter is 4 feet of pale laminate, and it is the only neutral space in the house. We eat across it from each other twice a day because the single couch in the living area is the only seating, and eating there requires us to be closer than the peninsula allows. And the peninsula somehow is what we both navigate toward. I tell myself it is because the monitor is visible from there. She can watch the cameras from the peninsula stool. This is a practical reason. I hold the practical reason in front of me. I learn her tells across that counter. The way she holds her fork, which is efficient and joyless and nothing like eating is supposed to feel. The way she drinks coffee without ever quite looking away from the monitor. The way she rotates her tactical watch against her wrist when something on the screen requires her attention. A car on the road a half-mile out, a pattern of movement in the camera's peripheral field, something that resolves into nothing, and she releases the watch. I learn to read the rotation. Fast means active assessment. Slow means she has already assessed and found nothing. The slow rotation is the one that my body registers as relief before my mind does. Every time. On day 7, I sleep past 6 a.m., which has not happened since we arrived, and wake up to find a mug of coffee already made and set outside my door. Not handed to me, set outside the door. The exact temperature of coffee made approximately 20 minutes before it is needed, which means she estimated my wake time and built it into her schedule. I stand in my doorway holding it and listen to her moving in the living area and do not go out for another 3 minutes. I am not sure what is happening to me. I am being precise about this too. I am a person under significant stress, in isolation, dependent for my physical survival on a single other person. These conditions are documented to produce specific psychological phenomena: attachment, hypervigilance, a heightened awareness of that person's physical presence. I know this. I catalog it the way I catalog objects in a gallery. Here's the thing. Here's its context. Here's what it would mean to someone who did not know better. Day 9 changes the geometry. I am checking the front door. The locks, there are 3, and she has checked all of them, and I have watched her check all of them. And I know they are locked, and I am checking them anyway because it is 9:15 in the evening, and the wind has picked up, and the house feels thin against it, and I need the physical confirmation that a locked door provides when everything else is uncertain. I turn the first lock, the second. I am reaching for the third when I realize she is standing behind me. She's close. She has come up behind me silently. The carpet, her trained movement, and she is close enough that I can feel the temperature of her before I turn. That same cool, then warming, and the cedar scent of her is present in the air between us, and I finish checking the third lock and turn around. She's closer than I thought. I have to tilt my face up to look at her, which I know intellectually but experience physically as a recalibration, a sudden awareness of the specific proportions of the space between us. Her jaw is a clean, sharp line in the dim hallway light. Her eyes are very dark, and they are doing what they do, which is assess without announcing the assessment. It's locked, she says. I know. You checked them an hour ago. I know that too. She says nothing for a moment. The wind pushes at the house. The security hum runs its low, constant note beneath everything. Then, you don't trust me to do my job? Her voice is flat, not offended. She's not a person who performs offense, but precise in a way that the question is not quite a question. I look at her, at the specific quality of her waiting. I trust you, I say. I don't trust anything else. Something shifts in her expression. It is small and it is real, and I see it before it is gone. A movement in the muscles around her eyes, something that is almost, not quite, a flinch, but internal, like something she received and immediately contained. She reaches past me. Her arm extends and she turns the third lock, the one I just locked. One full rotation, then back, audibly so I can hear the mechanism. The sound of it, the precision of it, travels somewhere particular in my chest. She does not step back when she does it. Her arm is still extended. I am inside the circle of it, between her and the door, and the hallway is narrow and she is not moving. There, she says. Now you know. I can see the line of her throat from here, the fine pale skin of it, the movement when she swallows, once, controlled. I can smell her at this distance with specificity, cedar and something cold, like stone just before rain. Her arm is still there, the circle of it. I say, thank you. She draws her arm back, steps back, returns to the living area without another word. I stand at the door for an additional moment with my hand on the handle and breathe. I do not check the locks again that night. There is no reason to. She has done it, and I know it, and I choose to know it, and I am choosing, I tell myself. Because I am a reasonable adult in a high-stress situation and not because of anything else. I am not convincing myself of this, but I am a professional. I hold the professional posture. I hold it through the rest of the evening and into the night, and when I hear her footsteps at 11:40 and again at 12:20 and again at 1 a.m., I lie in the dark with the catalog against my chest and listen and feel each pass like something is being confirmed. Day 12. The storm rolls in. It arrives in the afternoon as a pressure change, the kind of barometric drop that I usually experience as a mild headache behind my left eye. And by evening, the gray coastal light has turned to something flat and white and moving. Wind hits the glass in long, sustained pushes. The security-tinted windows hold, but they flex slightly, just enough to feel. And the sound of it is the sound of the house being tested by something that is not interested in the outcome. The power flickers once at 6:40 and holds. I am on the couch with my museum catalog open to the Kiefer piece. Lead and straw, monumental, the piece I was rotating out of long-term storage to the main gallery, the installation whose shadow I was in when the three men came through the service door. I have been staring at the same photograph for 12 minutes. The Kiefer does not change in response to my attention. This is one of the things I like about it. Riven is at the monitor. She has shifted her position since the storm intensified. She is standing now rather than seated on the peninsula stool, which changes her sight angle slightly and gives her the approach view from the north camera. She has rotated her watch 4 times in the last hour. I have counted. If they find me, I say, not looking up from the catalog, how long do I have? She does not turn. You won't have time to ask that question. I close the catalog. The sound of the cover contacting the pages is louder than I intended in the storm pressure quiet. That's not an answer. She turns. Her face in the stormlight, the flat, diffused white of it coming through rain-sheeted glass, is even more angular than usual, all the familiar softness of warm interior light removed. She looks like something that has been very carefully made for a specific purpose. Her dark eyes find me across the room. 30 seconds, she says. Maybe less. The number sits in the room between us. Less than a minute. I hold the catalog in my lap and look at her. And 30 seconds is the time it takes to say 30 words, or to walk approximately 40 feet, or to pour a cup of coffee, and it is also, apparently, the duration of my life in a specific scenario, which is a strange thing to know about yourself. I stand up. I walk to the window because I am a person who paces when I cannot hold still, and the window is as far from where I was as I can get in this room, and I stand there looking at the rain-driven glass. The lights of the coast are gone in the storm. There is only the moving dark and the rain making liquid shapes against the tinted surface. Riven comes off the monitor. She does not cross the room quickly. She covers it in the quiet, efficient way she covers all space, no wasted movement. And she puts herself between me and the glass, not touching me. Her back to the storm, facing me. Don't stand there, she says. I look at her. She's close enough that I am looking up at the familiar angle of her face. Why not? You're watching the perimeter. Because I can't see the approach angle from the north camera if you're in my sight line. Her hand finds my shoulder, her right hand, her palm against the place where my shoulder meets my neck, not gripping, redirecting. The warmth of it goes through the cable knit of my sweater immediately. Not contact exactly. Or not only contact. Command. She moves me 3 feet to the left, one continuous movement, firm and entirely controlled. Here, she says. Stay here. She keeps her hand on my shoulder. I look down at it, then up at her. Her expression has not changed, the professional stillness, the assessment gaze, but her fingers have. They have stopped directing. They are just present now, resting against the curve of my shoulder through the sweater. The warmth of them is specific and located, and my shoulder is very aware of it in a way that travels down through my ribcage. She looks at her hand. She looks at my face. I say, you don't have to let go. She goes very still. Not the trained stillness, the other kind, the kind that costs something. The storm pushes at the glass behind her. The security hum runs. Her fingers against my shoulder do not move. Yes, I do, she says. She pulls her hand back. Not quickly, she does not perform withdrawal, but completely. She returns to the monitor. I stand in the spot she placed me and watch the rain move against the glass and feel the specific temperature difference where her hand was and was not, the shoulder of my sweater gone marginally cooler in its absence. And I stand in that cooler air and breathe. I think she said she had to, which is different from saying she wanted to. I think she went still first, before she spoke. The stillness came before the decision, and the decision was made against something. I think I should not be cataloging her the way I catalog installations. The way I look at a piece and identify what it is doing to the room and what it is doing to me and what it refuses to tell me directly. This is a person. She is not an object in a gallery. She is the person who is keeping me alive, and she is standing 12 feet away, watching a security monitor in a storm, and her hand was on my shoulder for approximately 40 seconds and is not anymore. I pick the catalog up from the couch. I sit. I open it to a different page. She rotates her watch once, slowly. I breathe. Day 13. The storm breaks overnight, and by morning there is a scrubbed quality to the air, the light coming through the tinted windows with more clarity than we have had since the first day. I make coffee. She's already at the monitor, jacket on, hair perfect, the low, tight ponytail, not a strand compromised. She might have slept. She does not look like someone who slept, but she also does not look like someone who did not. She looks like someone who has been in this posture since before dawn, which is probably true, and who finds the posture entirely natural, which is also probably true. I pour her coffee and set it on the peninsula in the place she will pick it up from. She does not look over. I watch her pick it up 30 seconds later without breaking her monitor attention, and I go to my room and sit on the bed with the catalog and trace the installation photographs with my finger, and think about nothing in particular for a long time. On day 14, she catches me. I am standing on the stool, reaching for a plate on the top shelf. The ceramic plates are all on the top shelf, which is a design choice I find architecturally hostile. And the stool is not particularly stable, and I overreach slightly and the stool rocks and Riven catches me from behind. Both hands around my waist, steady, immediate. She holds me there for the 2 seconds it takes the stool to stabilize. Her palms are warm against my sides through the sweater, warmer than the shoulder contact, more of her hand against more of me, the heat of her transferring through the cable knit in a way that I register from my waist up through my sternum. She does not let go until I am steady. "Step down," she says. I step down. She's still very close behind me when I do, and when I turn there are approximately 4 inches between us and I can see the fine dark lashes, the quality of her gaze, the single tendon that runs along the side of her jaw that tightens slightly when she is holding her expression in place. She reaches past me and takes the plate from the shelf, sets it on the counter, steps back. I say, "Thank you," she says. "Don't stand on that stool." This is the full extent of it. She returns to the monitor. I put the plate back on the shelf and then take it down again because I needed it. That was the entire point, and make eggs at the stove with the particular calm of someone who has recently made a decision not to examine what is happening to them. The catalog on my nightstand has begun to accumulate small folded corners, pages I return to. The Kiefer, the Tyrrell light installation I had been planning for the spring. The early Hearst I never quite finished the catalog essay for. I am using it as a way to think about something other than this house and the woman who patrols it and the way her hands feel at my waist. I am aware this is not working. On day 15, I ask her about her work. Not the assignment, the work generally, the training, the career. It is evening, the interior lighting in its warm, pooled configuration, and she is at the peninsula, and I am at the other end of it with my coffee. And the binoculars from the windowsill are between us on the counter because I have been using them to watch the coast during the afternoon and set them down. She looks at me with the expression that means she is deciding whether to respond. I have learned to wait this out. It takes approximately 4 seconds, and then she does or she does not. She says, "Why?" "Because I have been in this house with you for 15 days, and I know the patrol schedule and the camera sight lines and nothing else." A pause. Not hostile. She is not a hostile person, precisely. Just a person for whom speech requires justification. "What do you want to know?" "How long have you done this?" 9 years. Before that, military. "Do you always work alone?" "Mostly." "Do you prefer it?" She considers this, picks up the binoculars, sets them down again, a repositioning rather than a use. It's simpler. "Because there's no one to account for," I say, not as a question. "Because there's no variable I can't control." I look at her across the length of the peninsula. "And now?" She looks at me. Her gaze is the kind that lands with weight. I feel it in my sternum, specific and located, the way her hand felt through the sweater. Now there's one, she says. She means me. She means my pacing and my lock checking and my coffee timing and the museum catalog and all the ways I am not the kind of variable she can manage. She says it without accusation, as a plain fact. I say, I'll try to be less chaotic. Don't, she says. I look at her. She looks at the counter. She picks up her coffee. The conversation, apparently, is over. I sit with the ending of it for the rest of the evening and try to figure out what she meant and arrive eventually at the conclusion that she meant exactly what she said, which is the most disorienting thing she has done yet. Day 16, evening. The gray last light going out behind the tinted glass, the interior lamps coming on in their warm, concentrated sequence. I have the binoculars at the window, the same windowsill, the same sight line across the coastal scrub to the water, not because I expect to see anything useful, but because looking at a specific fixed point helps me think, which is a trait I share with the Turrell installations I love. Looking hard at nothing in particular until the nothing becomes something. Anything? Riven, behind me. I did not hear her approach because I have been watching the coast and not listening, which is a lapse she would find professionally objectionable. No. I lower the binoculars. You'd tell me if there was? She comes closer. I can feel the temperature of her before I hear her. That specific cool then warming, the cedar and something beneath it that I have catalogued without naming. She stops at my shoulder. Not quite beside me, not quite behind. I would. Then we're both just watching nothing. I'm watching the perimeter. She takes the binoculars from my hands, gently, the transfer smooth, her fingers overlapping mine on the grip. She raises them, scans the coast in the slow, systematic way she does everything. Left to right, pause, return. She lowers them, she holds them out. I take hold of them. Her fingers do not release. We are both holding the binoculars. The 4 feet of peninsula between kitchen and living area is behind us. This is closer than the peninsula. This is the narrow geography of 2 people holding the same object in a room that is going dark. I do not take the binoculars from her. I leave my hands where they are on the casing, her fingers overlapping mine on the grip, the warmth of that contact specific and located and moving up through my wrist. What do you see when you look out there? I ask. She doesn't let go of the binoculars. Her gaze is still on the window. Threat vectors, approach routes, the 200 meters where you'd be visible if anyone was in position. That's what you see everywhere. It's what there is to see. I turn toward her. The binoculars are between us, both of us holding them, and turning toward her brings us into a proximity that the room has not had before. The nearest we have been without a surface or an emergency to justify it. I can see the fine texture of her skin in the lamplight, the dark, precise line of her lashes, the single tendon along her jaw, present, controlled. What do you see when you look at me? Her jaw tightens. She should step back. She has every justification for stepping back, professional, spatial, structural, and she does not use any of them. The binoculars are still between us. Her fingers on the grip do not move. Someone I'm not allowed to fail, she says. My heart is doing something specific at my throat. I can feel it there, the pulse of it, visible probably if she looks. She looks. I see her see it. The assessment gaze, moving from my eyes to my throat and back. And something in her expression shifts in the way it did by the door on day 9, small and real and immediately contained. That's not what I asked, I say. Silence. The security hum. Wind at the glass, lower now than the storm nights, a constant steady pressure. Her fingers on the binoculars grip, overlapping mine, not moving. Her free hand rises. It is a slow movement, not hesitant. She does not do hesitant, but deliberate, like a decision being made in real time. I watch it rise. I do not move. Her fingers approach my face and stop, just short of my jaw. And I can feel the displaced air of her hand's proximity against my cheek. A warmth that has not yet arrived, the almost of contact that is its own specific kind of pressure. She looks at where her fingers are, suspended near my face, then at me, then her fingers brush my jaw. Once. The knuckle side of her hand, just at the angle of my jaw below my ear, a movement so brief and deliberate that it registers in my skin before my mind identifies it as touch. One pass. The texture of it, cool at the instant of contact, then immediately warming, the specific warmth of her skin that is different from ambient warmth, particular to her. travels from the point of contact inward and downward in a straight line I could draw. She takes the binoculars. She steps back. "Don't ask me that again," she says. She goes to the monitor. I stand at the window with my hand at my side and my cheek where her knuckles were, and I breathe into the specific temperature of the room, the cedar and cold stone scent of her still present in the air where she stood, dissipating now, but there, still there. And I make myself look at the coast and see nothing, and the nothing is full of her. I do not ask her that again. What I do, instead, is this. I go to my room and sit on the bed and hold the catalog and feel the place on my jaw where her knuckles were, and I think, with the precision I bring to looking at objects that refuse to explain themselves directly, about what she said before she said, "Don't ask me again." Someone I'm not allowed to fail, not assigned to protect, not contracted to keep safe, not responsible for, not allowed to fail. The language of personal stakes, the language of something that costs her in a way that is not on the billing statement. I sit with this for a long time. I do not look at it directly. I hold it in the peripheral vision of my thinking, the way you hold certain installations, not head-on because head-on loses the thing, but at an angle, where the light catches it differently and the meaning accumulates at the edge of sight. She doesn't let go in these peripheral moments. She doesn't let go of anything. Not her posture, not her watch rotation, not the patrol pattern, not the specific way she checks the sight lines in every room she enters. She doesn't let go of any of the structure. But the structure, I am beginning to understand, is not what it appears to be. The structure is not indifference, wearing professional clothing. The structure is what it costs her to stay at the distance she has decided to stay at, and the cost of it is visible. Not in what she does, but in what her body does when she does not move. The pause before she releases her hand. The stillness before she steps back. The 4 seconds it takes her to decide whether to answer a question. These are not the pauses of someone performing correctness. They are the pauses of someone for whom the correct thing is becoming, incrementally, the harder thing. I am a person who reads objects. I am reading this one. Day 17. I sleep well for the first time in 2.5 weeks and wake up with my face warm from the coastal morning and the catalog closed on my chest and feel, briefly, that I am somewhere I could stay. This frightens me more than the men in Gallery B did. The men in Gallery B were a clear and singular event. This is an accumulation. I make coffee. She is at the monitor. I pour 2 mugs and set one in the place she will reach for it and pick up my own and stand at the peninsula and look at her back. The black long sleeve, the low ponytail, the controlled width of her shoulders, and feel the accumulation sitting in the center of my chest like a kefir piece. Massive, lead-heavy, refusing to explain itself. She reaches for the coffee without turning. Her fingers close around the mug. She does not look at me. I say, "What are you watching?" "Camera 3, she says. There's been intermittent motion, probably wildlife. "Probably," I say. And she hears something in it, or she does not hear anything in it, but her head turns slightly, not far enough to look at me, just enough to angle toward my voice, and I feel the angle of that turn in my sternum. I drink my coffee. She monitors camera 3. Nothing comes of the intermittent motion. It is wildlife, or wind, or the particular way the light moves through coastal scrub in early morning. We drink our coffee on opposite sides of this information, and I go to my room, and I do not think about her knuckles against my jaw. I do not succeed at this. Day 18. 3 a.m. The security alert sound is, I now know, a tone I will never be able to hear attached to anything else without my chest going cold. 3 short electronic pulses. It comes from the panel by the front door and from the monitor in the living area simultaneously, and the sound has not finished its 3rd pulse when Riven's hand closes around my wrist. She has come through the dark from the living area in 0 sound and 0 warning, and her hand is around my wrist, her fingers encircling it completely, her grip firm without being painful, the warmth of her hand immediate against the inside of my wrist, where the skin is thin and the pulse runs close to the surface. And she is pulling, not rough, purposeful, one continuous movement, out of the bed, upright, into the hallway, my back against the wall. It happens in approximately 4 seconds. She is in front of me, between me and the front door, which is the direction the alert is coming from, north fence line, perimeter breach, and her palm comes down flat against my sternum, pressing, holding. I can feel the warmth of her hand through the thin fabric of my sleep shirt, the specific warmth of her, different from the ambient warmth of the house, different from the warmth of blankets, the particular warmth of another person's hand, and beneath it my sternum, and beneath that my heart, which she can certainly feel because it is doing what it does in fear, which is the same rhythmic, accelerating thing it has been doing, with variations, for 18 days in this house, for reasons I have stopped fully distinguishing. "Stay here," she says. "Don't move." Her voice is the same voice she uses to tell me the coffee is ready, even, controlled, present. She reaches with her other hand to the panel she is positioned beside the hallway, a backup monitor she installed on day 2, which I know because I ask everything, and checks the north camera feed. The screen casts a pale blue-white light across her face. The angle of her jaw, the dark focused line of her eyes, the way her body between me and the door is arranged with a purposefulness that is not performance. She's completely still except for her eyes on the screen. Her palm is still against my sternum. I can feel my own heartbeat against it. The alert runs another cycle. She watches the screen. I watch her. The house is very quiet around the 3-pulse sound, the security hum, the wind, the particular pressing silence of 3 a.m. coastal. And I am in my sleep shirt, with my back against the cold wall and her hand on my chest, and the whole architecture of 18 days is present in this hallway like a fourth wall. The alarm stops, the 3 pulses cease, the monitor feeds resolve. She watches the north camera for an additional 12 seconds, I count, and then she exhales once, controlled, and her body releases some quantity of its operational tension. Not all of it. Most of it. She checks the other feeds. She reaches for her earpiece with her free hand. Her palm is still against my sternum. "All clear," comes through the earpiece. I can hear it faintly from where I'm pressed against the wall. The responding team's voice, remote and professional. "Branch fall on north line. Wind triggered. No breach," she confirms, removes the earpiece, and she does not move. Her hand is still on my chest. My heart is doing the thing it was doing, and it is not fear anymore. Or not the fear I had 4 seconds ago when the alarm sounded. The fear has changed quality. It is fear of a different specific thing, and my heart does not know the difference between types of fear. Physiologically, it just continues too fast against her palm. She looks down at where her hand is. The pale blue-white of the backup monitor is still on, casting that cold light. And in it, I can see her looking at her own hand on my chest with the expression of someone who has just noticed they are holding something they do not have a protocol for. She looks at my face. Her thumb shifts against the hollow of my throat, just slightly, the pad of her thumb pressing once against that specific place where the pulse comes closest to the surface. My breath catches. The sound of it is audible in the hallway's quiet, caught in the specific acoustic of the narrow space and the pressed-in silence of 3 a.m. and 2 people who are not moving. She feels the catch. I know she does because her thumb does not move after the press. It stays, present, against the hollow of my throat, feeling the pulse that is doing the same thing the rest of me is doing, which is refusing to behave appropriately. "You're safe," she says. Her voice is still the even professional voice. But something beneath it, in the space between even and controlled, in the place where a voice comes from before it becomes language, has changed. "No, I'm not," I say. She looks at me. Her thumb, against the hollow of my throat, is still. My hand comes up. I cover her hand where it rests against my sternum. My palm over the back of her hand, covering her fingers, feeling the warmth of them from the other side, the shape of her hand under mine. I can feel the specific geometry of her knuckles under my palm. She does not move. "Not if you don't move," I say. Something breaks in her. I watch it happen. Not a collapse. She does not collapse. This woman has not collapsed in 9 years and will not in this hallway at 3 a.m. But a specific thing, visible and precise, a change in the quality of her stillness. What was controlled stillness becomes something else, something that is holding itself still with more effort than before. The jaw tendon tightens. Her fingers, under my palm, press down, just slightly, just marginally, feeling the shape of my sternum and the ribs beneath it and the warmth of skin below the thin fabric. "I can't," she says. The admission does not sound like surrender. It sounds like the most honest sentence she has said in 18 days, which is saying something because she is almost entirely honest. She does not have the kind of dishonesty that requires words. She is only the kind that requires distance. "I can't," she says again. and this time it is quieter and it cracks something in the room. The way the binoculars cracked something between us at the window. The way the lock turned and the arm was still extended. The way she went still on my shoulder and said, "Yes, I do." All of it arriving in this hallway at 3 a.m., with her hand on my chest and mine on hers, and both of us entirely awake. My other hand finds her wrist, the wrist below the hand that is on my sternum, the hand I have put my hand over, and I hold it there, not pulling, not directing, just holding the wrist, feeling the pulse there at the exact spot where her pulse is, mirroring the way she held my wrist in the dark when she pulled me out of bed. Her pulse beneath my fingers is not even. It is not professional. It is exactly what my own pulse is doing, and neither of us has a name for what to do with that parity. My hand, still holding hers over my sternum, pulls, slowly, downward. I move her hand from my chest to the lowest edge of my ribcage, just above my waist, where the cable knit of the sweater is thinnest from being stretched and washed and pulled on for 18 days. I hold her hand there, both my hands holding her one hand against my side. I look up at her. Her breath changes. I hear it, not see, not observe, not register at a mediated distance, but hear, because the hallway is 12 inches wide at this proximity, and she is close enough that the quality of her breathing is a physical event in the space between us. What was even and controlled becomes something that takes more work to be even. One breath in, a pause where the pause was not before. Breath out, slower than the one that preceded it. Her other hand, the one that caught my wrist, the one that pulled me from sleep into the hallway, finds the wall beside my head. She's not leaning into it. She's placing it there as a point of contact, as a structure, the way you put your hand on a wall to feel where solid is. "This is not protocol," she says. "I know," I say. She stops. The sentence does not finish. She looks at me, the dark eyes, the deep-set assessment gaze, doing something now that is not assessment, that is something older and more involuntary than assessment, and does not finish the sentence. Her fingers at my ribcage shift slightly, not withdrawing, adjusting. Her palm against me through the thin cable knit, warm and present, the 5 points of her fingers against my ribs. I reach up. My hands find her arms, biceps, then shoulders, the lean, hard muscle of them under my palms, the technical fabric of her long sleeve warm from her body. And I hold her there, not pulling, just holding. And I feel the moment she decides, or the moment she stops deciding and allows what has been true for some time to become true in the room and the air between us in this hallway at 3 a.m. And the decision is visible in the specific quality of the tension she releases. She leans forward. Her forehead comes to rest against mine. The geometry of this, her forehead against mine, our breath in the same 12-inch space, her hand at my ribcage, and my hands at her shoulders, and the wall at my back, and the locked door at the end of the hallway, and everything outside the locked door, that has brought us to this specific point. Same breath. The cedar and cold stone of her at this distance is overwhelming in the way that proximity makes everything overwhelming. Not stronger exactly, but unavoidable, present in every breath I take. "If I start this," she says, "I don't stop." It is not a warning exactly, it is information. The kind of information she gives me about exit routes and camera angles. In the time I have, 30 seconds, maybe less, before something becomes irreversible. She's giving me the map of the territory in the way she always gives me the map, even when the territory is this. My fingers find the back of her neck. The precise, specific place where the low, tight ponytail begins. The gathered hair, the black silk of it, the nape of her neck beneath where the elastic sits. And I curl my fingers there, at the base of her skull, and I feel her go, perfectly, entirely still, against me. "Good," I say. Her mouth finds my jaw first, not my lips, not yet. And the deliberateness of this is what unmakes me, or begins to, that she starts here, at the angle of my jaw just below my ear, which is where her knuckles brushed on day 16, the knuckle side of her hand that traveled from the point of contact inward and downward. She starts there. She covers that place with her mouth and presses, warm, certain, a pressure that is not tentative and is not rushed, that is simply present in the way she is always simply present. Her mouth against my jaw, my fingers tightening at the nape of her neck, the sound of my own breath in the narrow acoustic of the hallway. Then her throat, her mouth at the side of my throat, below my jaw, warm and slow and specific. And I feel it at the point of contact, and below the contact, and in my chest, and in the place between my shoulder blades, and in the back of my knees, which I did not know was a location that had feeling until now. My hands tighten in her hair. The low, tight ponytail, perfectly functional, comes loose against my hands. The elastic gives, and the jet black length of it falls. And it is still gathered in my hands, and I hold it and feel the change in her when the ponytail goes. Something released in her along with the hair, some version of the structure she wears like equipment. Her hand slides under my sweater, her palm against bare skin at my waist. The warmth of it directly now, no cable knit between us, the specific temperature of her hand against my side at the ribcage. Her hand is cooler than my skin, and then it is not. It is warming against me, and the warmth travels through my entire ribcage, and I make a sound that I do not plan and cannot catalog, and which I am entirely unable to be embarrassed about. She pulls back, just enough to look at me. Her hair is down, the functional ponytail gone, the jet black length of it falling against her jaw, against her shoulders. And this is the first time I have seen it, and she looks. I am looking at her, and she looks like a version of herself that she does not show to rooms, and I hold this in my chest alongside everything else. Her hand is still under my sweater. Her dark eyes are level with mine at this small distance, and they are doing something I have not seen them do before, which is not looking. She looks at me the way I look at things that refuse to explain themselves directly, which is to say, steadily, without blinking, with the patience of someone who is prepared to look for as long as it takes. "Tell me to stop," she says. I shake my head. "No." She looks at me for one more moment. Her thumb traces the line of my lowest rib, once from where her palm rests outward and back, a slow and deliberate trace. And I feel it radiate from the point of contact through my entire chest, and she watches my face while she does it, and what she sees in my face makes her jaw change. The tendon releasing, the control releasing along with it, the specific and precise release of someone who has decided to set down something they have been holding for a long time. Her forehead comes back to mine. Her hand at my waist presses slightly, feeling me, and the other hand, still braced against the wall beside my head, drops, finds my face. Her fingers at my jaw, the angle of it, the same angle where her knuckles were and where her mouth was, and now her fingers, cradling. The heel of her hand against my cheek. The warmth of all of her, the cedar and cold stone of her, the specific quality of her body against mine in this narrow hallway. And there is a moment, one suspended moment, the clock genuinely stopping, when I look at her and she looks at me and we are in the fullest possible version of the almost that has been accumulating for 18 days. And then we are not in the almost anymore. Morning. Coastal gray light through the security-tinted windows. It comes in flat and familiar and the color of 18 days of mornings I have woken to in this house. The same diffused illumination that shows everything without shadow. I am on the couch. Riven's tactical jacket is around my shoulders. It was not there when I sat down, which means she put it there and I did not notice. Which means I was not paying full attention to the room, which is not a state I have been in since I arrived. My sweater is on, collar askew. My hair is loose around my shoulders. There is evidence in general of the night. Riven is at the monitor. She's back to the professional posture, facing the screens, the operational stillness, her attention on camera 3, which has had 2 additional incidents overnight that were both wind and both resolved. But she is not wearing the jacket. The jacket is around my shoulders, and every 30 seconds, give or take, she looks back. Not checking a sight line, not assessing. Looking back at me, the way you look at something you have decided about. I sit with the jacket around my shoulders and feel its weight. Heavier than expected, the tactical fabric holding the specific cedar and cold stone warmth of her even second hand. And I watch her watch the monitors and look back and watch the monitors. She has not said anything. I have not said anything. The morning is doing what mornings in this house do, which is be gray and present and relentless. What happens now? I say. She does not turn. I keep you alive. That hasn't changed. Everything changed. This is the thing I said last night that I will also say this morning, which is different from everything she said last night that she will also say this morning, which is, nothing yet. But she is looking back. She finally turns. Fully. The monitor feeds cycle behind her, and she faces me across the living area in the gray morning with her hair loose. She has not replaced the ponytail yet, the jet black length of it against her jaw. And she looks at me in the sweater with her jacket over it, and something in her face that was controlled since day one does not bother with control. The jacket is too big on me. The collar of my sweater is askew, the neckline pulled to one side. My hair is tangled from her hands, which she can see, and she is looking at it, at me, at the totality of what is visible in this morning light. She crosses the room. Not quick. She does not move quickly except in emergencies. And this is not an emergency. It is the opposite of an emergency. She comes to where I am on the couch and stands before me, and I look up at her from this angle, the familiar upward tilt, the angles of her face in gray morning light. She reaches out. Her hand finds my hair, one piece at the temple, tangled and loose, and she smooths it back into place with the same deliberate precision she brings to everything. Her fingers at my temple, my hairline, moving the piece back. She does not rush this. She does not perform the smallness of it. Then she lets her hand rest against my face, her palm against my cheek, the heel of her hand at my jaw, the angle of it, where her mouth was in the hallway and where her knuckles were on day 16, and where her fingers have been more times than I have kept formal count of, the specific warmth of her palm. Her thumb against my cheekbone, tracing once, the same slow, deliberate trace she gave my ribcage in the hallway, and I lean into it, my cheek into the cup of her palm without deciding to. My body moves before I direct it, which is not new, which has been the defining fact of this house and this assignment and this woman since day 4 at the coffee pot. 18 more days until trial, she says. Then you're not my assignment anymore. I look up at her. And then? Her thumb traces my cheekbone again, the warmth of it in my face, spreading outward. Her dark eyes on mine doing the thing they have always done, which is look steadily at what they are looking at. But what they are looking at now is not a sight line or an approach angle or a threat vector. It is me, settled, decided. Then I find you, she says. And you let me. I lean into her palm. She lets me. The security monitor beeps. Once, camera 1, routine cycle. She turns toward it. But her hand drops from my face to my hand where it rests in my lap, and she holds it, briefly, certainly, her fingers finding mine and pressing once. And then she is back at the monitor, and the hand is gone, and the warmth remains. I look down at my hand, at where her fingers were and are not. The jacket is still around my shoulders. I do not take it off.